Wie bist du?
Wie geht's? Sehr gut. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. In part 2, we talk about Thor, Allen's 60 caliber hunting rifle. We also talk about a Henry Mauger rifle that was a bench copy Allen did years ago. We heard his advice to new gun builders and people new into black powder shooting. We end part 2 with a story of the pig rifle, built around an original 1720s lock. This gun has attributes that detail Allen Martin's family history. Now let's get started with the last of the 3-part series of this interview with Allen Martin.
You know, you just build guns. I don't build as many fancy guns today as I did several years ago. I have several on order, but right now I'm going through a plain hunting gun funk or whatever, just filling orders, you know.
Yeah.
So when people say you don't want to become like a machine or repetitious, I'm like, no, but the economy sort of makes it that way.
Mm-hmm. I was going to mention, there's a couple of things I thought of I wanted to talk to you about, and that was one of them with this whole family thing. You know, we're so fortunate to the interest of the muzzle loading, the fact that they were started in Pennsylvania by these small gun shops. You look back through the history, and
whether they were started in Pennsylvania or not remains irrelevant. There was gun makers in New England, early 1700s, late 1600s. Boston was settled a long time before Lancaster got really popular, but during the heyday after the French and Indian Wars, Lancaster became, it was sort of a major intersection of several roads.
Yeah.
Route today, what is today Route 340 or Route 30 out of Philadelphia, all the way to York.
Yeah.
That was the connection. And at one time, right after the Rev War, I think it was several hundred gun makers over a period of time in that general area.
But what I'm saying is that when someone says about the flintlock rifle, everybody's mind goes to the Lancaster.
Exactly.
You know, that's where it's, and you know, the fact that you're from there.
And then you got Route 81 to the Great Wagon Road.
Yep.
You know, and Wallace Gusser likes to talk about the Northern Virginia guns and the influence that they have in that area. I still think a lot of those original gun makers came out of Hanover or York.
Yeah.
At one time came out of Reading.
Yeah.
Or Lancaster.
Yeah.
So the early Moravian gun shop in Christian Springs. Here's a picture of it over here under my 2020 signed. That was the early Moravian gun shop. Christian Brunner or Christian Spring, and the Moravians had a unique setup, and I never really got to know much about the Moravians until I started going to the KRA, and some of these early rifles started surfacing and becoming familiar with them. Now I like going to shows like the Tennessee Kentucky show in Knoxville because you see a completely different, the Southern Appalachian iron mounted rifles. I don't want to build any of those. Maybe I do, but as of right now, I probably won't because I'm too busy doing what I do. But it's interesting, the history, how the people lived.
But what I was saying was, isn't it neat though that like with your background and it's like it's something I never gave it any thought till later. And with built flintlocks is like, here I am. I have that Mennonite and Amish background. We live in the area.
Yeah.
To know that these guns were built in this area, and then you know here we are. We're still building them. We're still shooting them.
Sort of hard to let go.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are really interested in ordering a gun or learning how to build them or shoot them because in this world of instant gratification, you know, I can click on something on my Apple computer and in 2 days UPS pulls up, break, screech, hands me a package from Amazon. Instant gratification. I'm going to stretch them out as long as I can when I get a gun order from, not because I want to, because it takes so long. It's a slow process. People come in here, I'd like to see you, watch you work. I'm like, you want to watch paint dry? You want to watch grass grow? Maybe when I'm rough shaping a gun stock, the wood chips are flying and You know, I can really make it look exciting, but that's about where it stops. You know, I mean, there's a lot of great videos out there on gun making and stuff, but reading the old Foxfire book from the Southern Appalachians and the gun makers that are in there is really interesting. I got to know a fair number of the gun makers that are featured in there, especially they were young at that time. Now they're in their 70s, you know, like Jim Chambers and Wallace and Earl Lanning is in there. Homer Dangler was in there. He just passed away. Several other well-known gun makers that sort of kept things going. But like Earl Lanning always said, Hacker Martin was one of the sole gun makers of that Southern era that kept it alive, from the old traditional guns to the contemporary. He was like that. He was very important of not letting it ever go away completely in the Southern Appalachian, you know, viewpoint, or from the area.
Yeah.
And that creates you can feel the burr. Feel the burr?
Oh yeah.
I know you can feel it, because I can feel it vibrate when you, and that little hook. That means you can get into your carving, into your corner. I won't do it, but you can get the lighting just right. Get cross light. I would turn my overhead lights off, and
oh, that lighting's everything. And
then I come in there and go with the grain, and you can clean that. Once I learned that, carving got so much easier.
Just creating that hook.
Micah Hagan said, "I'll use scrapers." And that's when I started scraping. And once I started scraping, it was never looked back. And my main scraper for.
What do you do across the grain though? It's one thing to go with the grain. That's got to.
Every now and then you have to. This is that's my scraper. I'm scraping the whole gun. I mean, this is a gun that Matt Harshberger is noting. He wants me to help him with the patch box, but to give you an idea.
Yeah, they say that Alan Martin, he uses razor blades to scrape his guns.
With a hook drug on it. If you use a straight razor blade, you'll be bleeding. They're sharp. But this will probably be my gun making seminar at the Gun Makers Fair.
Oh, you're going to do a seminar?
I guess. They want me to.
That's cool.
I just want to go sit down, drink a beer, and be lazy and talk about guns and whatever. But this is Matt Harshberger. He's an interesting fellow.
I feel like I should know that guy.
Yeah, he lives in York, or York Springs, and now he built a house in Carlisle area. But anyway, he called me one day out of the blue and said, I want to learn how to build a gun. So he came up, and we started a great relationship, and now we shoot deer together down in the York County, Lewisberry area. And he called me a couple weeks ago. He wants me to help him make a patchbox spring. He says, I hate doing these things. He had a couple other choice words with it too, but anyway, so I will make that little spring. It's sort of hand forged and stuff, so I want to get it done this week so you can come and get it. Now that I got those 2 shimmels done.
Yeah.
You know, so everything has to be on some kind of a schedule. Guns for a living. The romance has died a little bit, but when I get a cool gun, if somebody calls me up, I'm not taking any more gun orders. Somebody calls me, he's like, oh, I'd like to order an early Jacob Dickert, you know, with a sliding wood patch box and a nice relief carbine. I like building those things. You know? I build a lot of Lehigh rifles, and I'm sort of Lehigh'd out. Yeah, they're not as they're cool. I like earlier stuff. I like pre-Rev War. Yeah. Or at least, you know, 1780 or earlier. It's just you see a lot of character, a lot of sculpting, a lot of low cheek pieces, and you know, you lay them against your face. You just get away from that bony later period stuff that loses its architecture character. Some of these early guns are more of a mystery. Where do they come from? What made them do that? Are they a parts gun? Is it a French barrel, French Fowler barrel that's been restocked, period time, you know? And from a butt plate, I'd like to see those composite guns. They're really cool. That's what I like.
That's cool.
More and more.
You have some locks?
Some more trans tint. I just got some new sandpaper drums. Don't tell Eric Kettenberg, but I have several of these Chris Laubach locks. He's been wanting one. There's a gun I have to do. Where the heck is this lock? There's another Chris Laubach lock.
What are you saying, Chris logs? Chris what?
Loba. Here's an original.
Are these those
Austrian
CNC
lock.
logs?
Huh?
Are these those CNC
That's
logs?
a CNC log. Here's Tucker's new log.
That's for his Jaeger.
I had it TIG welded, blinding some holes. Yeah, this is what it's gonna look like for me. I have it all laid out so that when you lay it on here, it's gonna fit on there. See that? Hard drop in the wrist. See that? It's gonna be an iron mounted, pretty subtle. Nothing fancy on this gun, except it has a little fancy finial. It has decent
English walnut.
This is English walnut, like they did in Europe. It's going to have a serpentine side plate out of iron I'm going to make. Sure. Handmade ramrod pipes. And ramrod pipe should be what I call graduated. Should be smaller, bigger, and bigger. See that tapered ramrod?
Yeah, oh yeah.
See that tapered ramrod?
Uh-huh.
That way the ramrod don't go scooting out on you. And it does. It don't ever stick either. But if it wants to scoot, you see this little notch right here on the bolt?
Yeah.
That's a witness indicator. When the bolt's going through the gun, there's a half moon notch because my web is thin enough. I want the people say I don't want to hit my front lock bolt through the ramrod hole. I do. Not the whole way, not in the middle, but the top edge of the hole. I want that bolt to come through, and I'll taper the ramrod. I'll notch the bolt, and if the ramrod wants to start getting loose and scooty, I can turn that bolt a little bit. It cams it.
How about it?
It works.
That was my first one, my trade gun. I drilled too low and I hit. And you said taper your ramrod, and I was like, oh, I can do that. So that's what I did. I didn't notch the bolt. Now my trade gun, the front bolt. When I drilled in, I hit the barrel, so I just notched the barrel out a little bit.
Flintlock guns could be really easy to build if they had one hole missing, and that's called the ramrod hole. Ramrod holes are a pain in the butt. There's always something screwed up with the ramrod. Or can be, you know, on a breech of this size. On a breech of this size, inch 300 or inch 350. I want that ramrod hole touching the barrel at the breech because it's so big. If you go too much lower than that, then your gun's gonna get really fat. Don't want that. And this barrel is now the prototype for the early PA Dutch barrel that Rice sells.
Really?
It is. Yeah.
And that was one you had custom made.
Yep. This was the prototype, and Jason Schneider goes, "Hey, Yankee, where'd you get that barrel?" I said, "Yeah, I bet you like it." He goes, "I do." So he now
you say Rice.
Rice is making it. Yeah.
What's Jason's last name?
Schneider.
Schneider.
I said, "Why do you call him Schneider barrel? I mean, that's so German and crowd."
How about it?
Ah, no, it's already established.
Yeah, it's got the name. That's where I got all Rice barrels in my guns. It's not that I'm like partial to them. It's just kind of the way it happened to be.
I mean, the inside should be as nice as the outside. If you look at the lighting, see how it's all grungy and gray looking. That's with I use a nitric acid or a browning solution, Hummer Dangler browner, and I'll make it damp and let it dry. Don't heat it up, and it turns green. And then I poof it with rotten stones. Sometimes I'll take some wax and I'll wax the corners in like the dried up yellow wax, you know. And wear it at the right places. Don't be too hung up on perfection.
Yeah. Like you say, you get polished up, it just doesn't... Nah.
If you do that, then you want to build a bolt action rifle.
Yes.
You know, this is when I recently...
You want it to look like a Remington 700.
I built this from a block of wood.
Did you?
Yep, hand inlet. I glass bedded it. It's a Mauser action, 7x57 Mauser. I like guns. People say, "Why do you want to build a suppository gun?" I'm like, well, I like guns.
Yeah.
They all have their place. There's something.
That's English walnut too.
English walnut, French or English, yeah.
Is that for you or what?
Want to see another one? The one that I... Oh, no!
Say this again. You did what?
This is a 721 Remington that I restocked and a 300 Holland Magnum. I shot a buck with it. I think it's the one on the left over there several years ago up in Sullivan County.
What were you doing in Sullivan County?
Sullivan County. Shunk.
I shot my first gobbler in Hills Grove.
Yeah, I know where that's at.
And you built that from a block of wood.
That was a block of wood.
That is
And this is sort of a 1960s fleur-de-lis check ring type. I want to redo the rust bluing on it because I'm not happy with it. But
wow, that's awesome.
It's another day in the office.
Miserable. I didn't feel that bad, but
Now, is this your doing or the wife?
this is what's that?
Is this your doing or the wife? Do you have time to garden yet?
Oh yeah, I built that bean trellis last week. Those are my climbing beans. They're doing horrible this year. The germination was pitiful. That's my wife's therapy. This barn here is original to the property, but I redid the whole thing. It has all new barn boards on it, new roof. I sort of did it backwards. I was not allowed to tear it away because it's on the alley by the deed. And if it burns down or it gets tore away, I can never rebuild it. But I can fix it up and maintain it. So that was...
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
So apologize the mess, but James Miller came in here with his two brothers years ago to pour concrete, and I raised the ceiling, and I just COVID, this is my COVID project. I hate that word COVID, but nobody could go to work, and I said, I'm going to take some time off too, and I've been pushing this off for 15 years. I finally finished the inside of my barn. I studded it out, insulated it, have wired it. I'm trying to get things set up in here a little bit better so I can have a nice woodworking shop. That bandsaw I bought when I was, I bought this bandsaw when I was, I want to say 20 years old, 21 years old, the Delta. And I cut a lot of gun stocks out on that thing.
And it's not huge either. It's what, 20 inch?
19-inch bandsaw I got from Grizzly. And that's my hog.
That's the one you...
That's my hog.
Look at these stalks.
A little bit of wood in here. Sort of picked out right now. Some of this stuff I'm going to put on American Long Rifle and sell it. I had a wood stove in here. A wood boiler to heat my house. So I finally tore it out because I got tired of burning wood and it was starting to rust out. So went all propane. If you ever need gun stock, we have a couple. I sell a lot of wood.
Wow, turn it sideways. What are you going to build with that? Or are you selling it?
I don't know. No. I can't put it on the video because it's a secret yet. But I think I'm going to build a gun for a Christmas present for somebody. And we'll leave it at that. So I built him a nice fancy... Do you ever get you ever see the book... Recreating the American Long Rifle. It's been reprinted now in full color. It has two rifles in the front. The one's mine. I built that gun for Rex. That Crazy Crow. And so those are powder horn butts.
Are you lathing? Are you turning them or what?
No, I'm not turning. You remember those dowels?
Oh yeah. These are ball ballot.
I know.
Billet.
These are not powder horn butts.
Nice.
Walnut that I just cut. I'm getting ready to ship an order out. I just got an order from Rex. Cherry, black cherry knife handles. You know. And I'm getting ready to cut some curly maple knife handles and then a bunch of walnut scales and maple scales. I went to the muzzle shoot up here. Might have been the rendezvous over the Labor Day weekend. And I had this shirt on that my wife had made. And some guy goes, the stitching's wrong for the time period that you want to... I'm like, right there, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to ever dress up again. Now, I don't hate people that do it. I think it's cool. I just don't want to do it. I say it costs a lot of money to look poor.
And what else did you say a bit ago I said you should say?
About gun making, it's a slow way to starve to death.
Yeah. I thought it would be a good idea to end the series with a few hunting stories by Alan. Have you?
Oh, yeah. How big was a bear you shot?
84 pounds.
Dressed, 394.
Flintlock?
270. Should have had my flintlock. It was a 15-yard shot.
No. Tell me the bear story, Alan.
I'm not a bear hunter. I go. It's sort of a novelty, you know. My nephew was living next door in the house next door, and him and his brother-in-law and his uncle. We went up there in the mountain behind his brother, my other nephew's house, and there was a lot of bear out that year, and they was seeing bear all summer. So we went up there, and it rattled. It was bear gunshots snapping more than rifle deer season. It was unbelievable.
What year was this?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't remember. About 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Back when the heyday of the bears. Anyway, nothing happened that morning. It was a beautiful day. It might have hit 60 degrees. It was just bluebird skies and sunny and no wind. Came home, I had to do some chores, recycles and the garbage and stuff like that. Got mid-afternoon, went up here, up past the check station. We used to be the check station at the DCNR building. We walked down in there, and I'm like, I used to smoke a pipe, so I was puffing my pipe, just enjoying the afternoon. And my nephew Chris goes up on the halfway up a mountain, and I'm down below there. I was just looking at a buck rub, big buck rub. I'm just checking it out, and mountain laurel patch, pow, right above me. I'm like, oh man, that was close, jeez. I can't see nothing. I'm hopping. So I go running about 20, 30 yards to a spot where I could see a little better, but couldn't see far. And I stood there about a minute, and all of a sudden I see movement coming down. Here comes a bear. He actually hit him, but he hit him way back, and he would have never got him. That bear came down 15 yards beside me, and I shot him in the neck, and he rolled over. And his right paw was laying there, and my right leg going,
Oh, I bet.
I screamed like a cheerleader.
Oh, that's awesome.
To get a bear out that heavy, just by carrying him on a pole, it took 4 or 5 of us an hour of carrying, like 20 yards at a time, then let him down.
Yep.
He was a big.
Yeah.
I have a shoulder mount from him, and I have the skull clean.
That's cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I walked my way up to the second bench, and I heard a crack. I bumped something. I went up too far, so I waited until dark. And it was a little snow on the ground, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear this crack, crack. I'm like, single trigger, cocked the hammer quietly right away. I just waited, and I looked over to my left, and I'm like, whoa. Brown blob steps up. I put old Thor up. There's like that little brass sight with like a light bulb out there, right there. When I shot, I seen fire come out of both holes. I didn't even blink, and I missed it. It was that dark I didn't see my back sight, so I shot right over it. So, the moral of the story is if you shoot a deer at dark 30, shoot for the hoof, because you're gonna shoot over it. But one of my most memorable shots was that one weekend we went down home to Lancaster County, and I had one of my flintlocks along. I can't remember which one, but anyway, I said I'm gonna walk my old stomping ground. Went up behind the old home farm, and my cousin that was land joiner there, up towards the Welsh Mountain, and there goes a groundhog running about 35 yards broadside, running, I swung through him and shot him on the fly, rolled him, and there was nobody there to celebrate with.
Yeah, right.
That was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Cool. We got down, started headed towards the weeds, and I was gonna drop down, and I just offhand held a little high, give a little lead. Pow! Whop! Dan behind goes, holy hell! I don't believe it. 180 steps.
Groundhog.
Right in the boiler room.
Oh my goodness! And I thought I was doing something at 71 paces.
Oh, that's good. That's good shooting.